Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the modern market, where every day we discuss all things to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make some or a lot of money on the internet. Load up discussion today. We have crypto and stocks settling as the DXY is moving higher. We've got Ripple announcing its $500 million funding, increasing its valuation to $40 billion. And finally, Wintermute has published a report suggesting liquidity has exited the crypto market. So we will be discussing all of those on the show today. We've also got the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs as usual, plus general market discussion. So stay tuned for that. I've got Legendary in the co-host seat with me today. We are ready to get into it, but just a reminder, friends, before we do, nothing that we say here is financial advice. This market is very, very risky. We do not know anything for sure, so please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, it is Thursday. It is the 6th of November. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
GM, doing quite well. It's an exciting day today. We will learn about our MegaETH allocations, which I'm obviously super curious about. We had this like breakdown yesterday of all the thoughts that went into it, which I feel like the majority of CT ended up studying. And I like the effort that they put into it. I mean, I said on the timeline, there's no perfect way to slice this. Someone's always going to be unhappy about whatever the outcome is. But I think one thing that you can't blame the team for is putting in the effort, actually putting a ton of thought, trying to get a diverse group together. And they definitely were extremely transparent about that as well, which I quite like to see.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I'm always in the camp. I know other people like transparency. So this may be a more controversial take. I think other people like transparency quite a lot. I'm actually of the opinion that sometimes transparency is kind of annoying as a founder or a leader because it gives people more opportunities to overanalyze and over politic about the things about your decision making process. And sometimes, especially with things like this, the answer as to why things happen the way they do is because that's what they wanted to do. And I'm actually generally an advocate for founders having how do you describe it, having the decision making power to sometimes not have to justify. I actually think in this specific instance, as you've said, it's gone really, really well. Apologies. And it's kind of gone flawlessly, actually. Like the way that they've described everything has been received really nicely and it's been done very, very well. So it's not to say that you don't need to be transparent ever. I'm just generally an advocate for if you don't feel like being transparent every now and again, then you don't have to. So it's maybe just a separate point on transparency, but I do agree with you that they've so far gone through this process just really, really beautifully, and done a really good job. So, any thoughts on my take there, Legendary, or anything specific?
I think it depends, right? With some things, if you're transparent, then you also control the narrative, right? Because now everyone knows how the distribution did go, and
True.
nobody can make up a story. If you don't do that with that, and people are like, oh, they favored the mega mafia builders, they favored the chaos. Like people will come up with their own narrative to, do the justification that you didn't want to do in the first place.
True.
And with other things, that doesn't really matter. Like, I don't know, when we did our rebranding and everything and decided how we structure the show and why the show is running the way it is running and shared in the way it is shared, like, I don't care if people like form a narrative and think, oh, it's B wanting to push the headlines that he helped him, or it's Legendary wanting to talk about gambling. This is why we're partnered with Yeet or whatever. There are cases like where I don't care about, if people want to take and control the narrative, but other cases where I very much like would care about that.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that's fair. So, conclusion: in some circumstances, transparency is great. In some circumstances, don't worry about it. Exercise your authoritarian. It's not even authoritarian. Your leadership potential. Okay. What else, Sledge? Before we get into the main stuff today, anything catching your attention in the market? I know we're going to speak about it more in a bit. Anything going on personally that you're finding interesting? What's going on?
Not really, not in the market, to be honest. Like it's a wait and see kind of market for me right now. Obviously, we did have a nice bounce on crypto. Stocks are mixed. We see some tech sell-off. We see other stocks in the S&P 500 doing pretty well. It is quite difficult to navigate that on a short time frame right now. So I'm not having any significant plays on that would have a, multi-week horizon at the moment. I'm trying to stay out of that because it's too volatile for my liking.
Okay. Well, I'm going to introduce something in today's market thoughts section that you're not going to like. You're not going to like it. I'm going to think we're going to need to buy something. Going to capitulate into buying something potentially. We got to talk about it. I mean, we've been talking about it. It's going up a lot. It's very volatile, and we're going to decide if we're going to buy it on today's show or not. So let's leave it there. We'll leave it there for now, and we will get to that in a moment. So let's get everyone up to speed though first with the price action to get you up to speed, and we'll go through the headlines for what is most important on the day today. So starting with the price action with the majors, as usual, we have Bitcoin up 1% to 103,180. We've got ETH up a couple of percent as well to $3,400. We've got XRP up 3% to $2.30. And we've got BNB up 1% to $950. We've got Sol up 1% as well to 158. And we have Hyperliquid down a couple of percent to $40. Getting into the meme coin side of things, we've got Doge down 1% to 16 cents. Pepe is flat, more or less. Trump's actually up 9%, almost back to $8. Bonk is flat. Pengu's flat. SPX is up a couple of percent. WIF is up a couple of percent as well. Fartcoin's up 5% to 26 cents, but still hugely off its highs before. Getting into the main headlines themselves and some of the notable price action that we want to inform you about. We have crypto and stocks pretty much steady here, or at least steady the last 24 hours as the DXY has been moving higher. We've got Ripple announcing its $500 million funding, increasing its valuation to $40 billion. We've got Wintermute publishing a report suggesting liquidity has exited the crypto market, which has got people talking. We've been speaking a lot about the kind of exhaustion of DApp buying, and that's been something that's been playing on our minds for quite some time and been the cause of us de-risking a reasonable amount. Some notable price action. Zcash is up 15% to $513. Sapien is up 150% to 0.3. ICP is up as well, plus 25% to $6. ZK Sync's up 11% as well. And Giggle is up 94%. I think that's a BSC token related to CZ, who is building the Giggle. I think it's an education company. Some notable sales on the NFT side. CryptoPunk IMAR sold for 36.49, although the floor I think is as low as 32, 33 ish ETH at the moment. Bored Ape Cheetah sold for 17 ETH as well. Getting into some of the other notable price action, we've got Penguins still at about 5.7, Bored Apes at around 6 ETH, Moonbirds at 2 after their big move yesterday, and Infinix patrons 145. Other side, Coda up 18% today to 0.8. So some movement on the NFT side there. I think actually, hang on, if I just refresh that, just don't want to make a mistake. Yeah, that is correct. Just wanted to double check that. Getting into the rest of the roundup, get up to speed. Bitcoin treasury company Sequans sells 970 Bitcoin to half its convertible debt as part of a strategic asset reallocation. The stock price has fallen as a consequence. That's one of the first examples of a Bitcoin treasury company, I believe, selling its own assets to do other things. So that's an example there. We did have an example of an ETH treasury company doing something similar not so long ago. MegaETH, as Legendary mentioned, announces conviction round methodology, where they detailed how they decide to allocate for their mega pre-sale. Chainlink announced it's selected as official Oracle provider for the S&P Digital Markets 50 Index. Metaplanet borrows $100 million via loan against its Bitcoin to buy more Bitcoin. One of the first examples, I believe, and I think this is notable, we'll speak about this later, that of a company borrowing against its Bitcoin to buy more Bitcoin. Not something I think many people will be comfortable with, although it's important to note in this instance, it's a very, very low percentage. So relatively safe amount of leverage, but nevertheless, a first example of it. Robinhood reveals higher than expected revenue, 1.27 billion versus 1.22 billion expected. HIP5 proposes allocating 5% of Hyperliquid trading fees to new assistant fund, AF2, governed by hype stakers to direct to strict list tokens. That's a kind of interesting new mechanic. It's caused a little bit of discussion in the Hyperliquid community to decide whether we should be supporting other tokens or whether it should be purely dedicated to hype. So interesting proposal. And then finally, Jesse, famous K-pop artist, spotted in Moonbird's merch at New York Nets game. I believe that was the reason why the price pumped yesterday, which we noticed. And then finally, Legion, the presale platform, announces Makina presale will take place on its platform at some point soon. You can read more about that in the article they just wrote. So that's the Web3 Roundup to get you up to speed with everything that you need to know. Legendary, before we get into the main headlines today, is there anything catching your attention from around the space?
There's two things I want to touch on. One's on the Roundup and one's maybe a bit of a provocative question. Starting maybe with the provocative question first. We do the NFT sales, we do the NFT prices every day as part of the show. Is that something that we see ourselves like doing in the midterm? Are NFTs still relevant enough to be covered as a part of the daily Roundup?
I think it's still a significant asset class. Still a significant digitally native asset class, which can not only be interesting for that asset class itself, but can also give indicators to the rest of the market. So I think it's always worth touching in on. I don't know if we need to do it in as much detail as we have historically done, but I think it's a very, very interesting indicator. And I don't know necessarily if it's always leading or always lagging or whatever, but when you saw the punks run, I'm sure we'll be able to look back and see when punks ran again to 250K, that was very much in line with, actually, I can't remember, you'd need to double check, but it was either very much in line with ETH's rise or the rest of the market's rise. I think it was both at the same time, right? As ETH was rising and everyone was super bullish over the summer, punks moved in that same way. And being able to study that and feel that dynamic, I think these two things are very, very connected, and it's helpful to get and seeing that punk price move in the way it did, I think would always be a good thing to analyze, thinking backwards. So seeing the punk's price go in that way, thinking about where you are in the market, I think that would always be helpful. What do you think?
I would agree with that, but the punk price is one that we do not have in the daily Roundup. Maybe that would be the only thing to do. Because we have the pudgies, the apes, all the other things, but because we just go to Blur and we don't go to like CryptoPunks.app, we don't report on the daily floor price for punks. And if I look at the total NFT market cap, that's 3.7 bill, dominated by 32% punks. So maybe going forward, if we look at collection floor prices, it should be the punks and then like other things that might stand out. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Culturally significant, but total market cap has fallen so much. So basically, the entire market cap of all NFTs is roughly also the market cap of Uniswap, with the difference being that Uniswap does 180 mil in daily trading volume, and NFTs at the moment do 5.7 mil. But
yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. I take your point, and I think that would be a good thing. I think reporting on CryptoPunk dominance of the NFT market and its price, maybe with a couple of the other ones, would be the better way to report on it moving forward. So I take your point. Did you say there was a second point you wanted to make here, Ledge?
yes, let me find my thought by looking at the Roundup. Yeah, the Legion, the Makina presale. You were the one to deposit Makina, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
You did lead on that. I followed with a smaller amount. Do we know details on the presale? Is it one you want to participate in either way? What are your thoughts on that one?
Good question. Why don't we just have a look now? If you go to the Legion account, okay, so the Legion account is not at Legion. Legion.
Legion.cc, I think, on X. Yeah, it's legion.cc. I got it. Let's see if they posted. Oh yeah, they did post an article.
So there's an article there. Legion.cc. That is right. So let's see if there's any details here. So just for a little bit of context for the listeners looking in, on some level, this will look like another vault where you have to deposit and then you start earning points and then you're going to get an allocation to a pre-sale. So like it's definitely in keeping with the current meta of raising money, because this is the way to raise money. It's the way Plasma did it. You deposit first, you earn tickets, I think in this case, and you get an allocation to a pre-sale with the more that you do. So that Plasma made that a popular way to raise money this way. But in some ways, this is a protocol that's going to allocate your funds. You know, you could do a vault on EtherFi. You could go into the Plasma vault. You could go, be in a different vault. Like there's lots of different places now where you can deposit. So what makes this different? Well, to me, the reason why I wanted to get into this, first, I knew that you earning access to a pre-sale at a 35 mil valuation, and I felt like that was an attractive valuation for this. It's the same valuation that a lot of OG participants were in on. It's the same valuation that the Angel round was at. So it's like, okay, so there's no one who has better terms than you for Makina. Zero people have better terms than you in terms of investors. So that's good. But ultimately, if the team is no good, or if the rest of the product isn't any good, then it doesn't really matter what price you get. So I wouldn't want to buy this at 35 if I didn't think the team was good. The interesting aspect for me was this team called Dialectic, who are going to be the first Makina operators. The operators are the people who are going to be like running the funds and like allocating in strategic ways. They've been doing this for a long time. It's run by Ryan's, I think entirely run by Ryan Zura, who is, if you look into him, he is a very prominent CryptoPunk holder. He was a very big NFT. Well, first he's running Dialectic and been in crypto for a long time, very successfully investing in this industry over the years. Plus, he then in 2021 and in the NFT cycle got very, very involved in NFTs. I believe he was instrumental in getting Rafiq Andol in the MoMA, and he was, I believe, also involved with like pushing Beeple as well in a very significant way. So, you know, when you know the people behind the things, that's usually where I get. That's where I generally make my assessments and know more things than other people, because I know I've done like that human research side, which none of that stuff is written down anywhere in public in a coherent way. So what I just described, I think, is a super helpful short form analysis, because it just joins some of the dots when you're like trying to analyze a protocol. Whereas I guess on the face of it, for normal people, this will just be like, okay, so 35 mil raise for a vault, is that good or bad? But I think you need to know more about it from that perspective. So that's my context. Did you have any further thoughts or questions or any assessment?
No, very, very helpful take. Very good to hear that. Again, I did not know too much about Makina. I just followed you into that because I know you did read more about that. So it's good to hear your more holistic thesis on that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's one that we're gonna keep an eye on for sure. What did you think, Legendary, about? And do you have specific thoughts on this? What did you think about those two things in the snapshot that are not headlines, which I think we have to touch on? One is this Bitcoin treasury company selling not ETH, selling Bitcoin in order to pay off some debt. And then the other one was Metaplanet, which is a very significant Bitcoin treasury company, biggest one in Japan, deciding to borrow against this Bitcoin to, I guess, buy this specific dip. I don't think that borrowing against Bitcoin core holdings has been the way that these companies have been funding their Bitcoin purchases up until now. That's obviously something that has just started. Like, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about these two things that are taking place? On the one hand, like some type of forced selling, and then borrowing against the core holdings.
Equally bad. The borrowing against the holdings is the one thing that Vitalik did warn about in a video where he said, you know, he per se has no gripe with the digital asset treasuries, but once they start borrowing against their assets to buy more and start looping and lending, this is when things get risky, because if there is a certain level of volatility hitting in the markets a day like October 10th happening again, the last thing you want to see is the that's being liquidated as a result of that. That would hurt the market a lot. And obviously, they might you might make the counterpoint that, and I assume that this is the case for Metaplanet, that they start borrowing in a very conservative way. If one starts to borrow, then the other starts to borrow a bit more aggressively. Then the next one thinks, why shouldn't I loop my borrows? So there's going to be this race probably where at some point someone gets hurt bad. So I think this is bad. This is not good that we are seeing this. And obviously, the other thing that you have to sell the asset that you basically wanted to buy and accumulate to pump your stock above MNAV, now having to sell that back to cover some debt is basically also the third stage, which we did not want to see happen. So this is happening as well. And ultimately, it makes me wonder if there is a better or smarter way to run those stats, or if there's even a point in having them apart from something that is so big like a Sailor strategy, and that maybe has so many offerings that are structured in a different way to speak to different market participants. But for most of the stats, I feel like you don't really need them anymore, because you can just buy the ETF, and they do not have offerings which are structured in the way that Sailor is structuring his offerings. And even for Sailor, I don't know if this is long-term sustainable. But long-term in this case, I mean multi-decade, 10, 20 years, in how the market will evolve, other than just obviously having this massive bet that at some point Bitcoin will explode and will maybe move towards a mill or so the next decade or next 2 decades. But yeah, both news don't make me feel pretty good about the DATs, to sum it up.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. I'm sure. Look, this is the counterpoint, right? The counterpoint. Well, to be honest, for the first one, there's no counterpoint. It's just you're selling your core holdings to service debt. That's not okay, fine. That's a strategic reallocation or whatever. That's not a healthy thing to do. I'm sure that's not the point of why people bought your stock, for you to sell the core holding that you said that's the reason why you're going to be creating this entity. So there's no counterpoint for that, really. That's just incredibly obvious, unhealthy structure for that company, or behavior for that company. Is obviously unhealthy. The second one, I guess the counterpoint would be, it's an incredibly, incredibly small amount. So I think, let's not get this wrong so we do not mislead anyone. Metaplanet, I'm just going to search it right now to make sure we have the exact right numbers. So Tokyo listed Metaplanet executed a $100 million Bitcoin backed borrowing on a, oh, so that's the wrong, so, okay, so yeah, this is the news. It actually took place a few days ago, but was only reported on it yesterday. So it was a $100 million loan in order to buy more Bitcoin, when this is super conservative for them. Well, that's the point, because this represents just 3% of Metaplanet's $3.5 billion Bitcoin reserve. So you know how when you take loans out against things and we think, okay, what would be a healthy loan to value ratio? Maybe 50%, maybe 60% is probably going to be fine. Like when I borrow against my Bitcoin, I might borrow at 50%, for example, thinking, yeah, it's going to be fine. If Bitcoin's at 100K and I have a liquidation price at 60 or something, or 50, you're probably okay. And then, you just know that it's there. Or if you want to be even more conservative, 20 to 30% maximum, you're probably okay as well. However, this is obviously tiny compared to that, right? It's just 3%. Now, the counterpoint to that counterpoint would be okay, well, if you think 3% is fine, what's to stop you saying, well, why not let's just make it 4%? Why not let's just make it 5%? Why not make it 6%? Why not make it 7%? And fair enough, Metaplanet might be in a healthy position to do that, but other people might look at this and think, okay, well, if they're doing 3, why don't we turn up the risk? And this is I think what basically happens when market participants just start getting too greedy. they just think, well, why don't we start here? And then you don't really know when the endpoint is, right? Because there's no proper number at which point you're supposed to say, no, you cannot go above this one, although they're starting very low. So, what do you think about that? And I mean, I know you've kind of expressed it already, but do you have a counterpoint to the counterpoint of the counterpoint or not?
No, I don't, because exactly this race will happen because you want to outdo the other DAT and be better than them, and have access to more of the underlying assets. And this will be the race that we'll see, and this will most likely lead to someone getting hurt in a very bad way, aka being liquidated.
Okay.
I would want to have a counterpoint and be like, no, but people are reasonable, but we know they are not in this industry.
Yeah, exactly that. So, okay. That is that. Definitely wanted to bring that up before we got into the main stuff today. And now, just before we get into the main headlines and get into that bigger discussion, just want to get into our shout out for our Beezie partnership. We're delighted to say that this show is sponsored by Beezie today, the on-chain claw machine innovating how collectors are chasing their next grail. Beezie lets you pull everything from PSA graded Charizards to Labubu figures, Travis Scott Jordans, and sealed products, all securely vaulted with Brinks, tokenized on-chain and shipped worldwide. Whether you're after rare Pokemon slabs or battling your way up the leaderboard to farm an airdrop through pulls, swaps, and trades, Beezie makes collecting on-chain fun. We will also conduct a little giveaway towards the end of the show today. What we'll be giving away is a 2023 Japanese detective Pikachu. That is a surprise. We did not let our users know that before, people who've signed up via our ref link. We will share the ref link again later in the show because the raffle for that will be exclusively for the people who've been using our ref link so far. And got a little bit more of a bigger announcement on how we're going to be working with Beezie moving forward and some more giveaways that we'll be doing on a week-to-week basis. So very, very excited about that. Legendary, you were instrumental in coming up with this deal. What do you think about this Pikachu we've got to give away today? It looks pretty cool, right?
Yeah, we will share it on screen a bit later, the Pikachu specifically. It's a card I like. It's roughly valued around 350. It's in PSA 10 or GCG 10, which is the highest grading that it could get. And it is a Pikachu promo. And I do collect Pikachu promos. It's one that I actually do not have in my collection, which makes me want to buy one after the show to have that as well.
Well, you can't have it. We're giving it away. We're giving it away today. So looking forward to that later in the show. So stay tuned for that. We'll be doing.
I'm gonna buy it. So if you don't want the card, if you want instant cash, I'm gonna buy it off you for whatever the market value is after the show. Should be 350. So just saying, if someone's cash and doesn't want the card, I am here to be.
No. It's going to a real collector. It's going to a real collector. Okay. Getting in. So stay tuned for that. We'll be giving that away at the end of today's show, and we'll explain how we're going to be doing that moving forward on a week-to-week basis. But before we get there, Legendary, we're going to get into today's headlines. First headline today is crypto and stocks settling. DXY is moving a little bit higher. We touched on this a little bit yesterday. Just for a general market roundup, though, first, what do we need to know here? What are you thinking about? What's catching your attention? Explain to us.
Yes, absolutely. Let's take a look. Quite a few things are going on. So for the S&P 500, S&P 500 is up 40 bips. The Nasdaq is up as well. All of that looks good. If we do dive into individual stocks, and I'm sharing Finviz on screen, we can see a bit of a mixed picture across the different segments and industries. On the one hand, we have Microsoft and Nvidia being both down 1.4, 1.7%. However, on the other side of that, we have Google, Meta, Tesla being up anywhere between 1.4 to, in Tesla's case, even 4%. Amazon is up a bit. Amazon did have a bit of a correction after we had this like massive layoff news, which we announced. So it is overall a green day in the market, but it's pretty mixed. Not everything is pumping, and that's the one thing that I did want to bring to the attention. I find Finviz for that quite helpful because it's like categorizing stuff in technology, consumer cyclical, communication services, industrials, consumer defensive goods, like the Walmarts and Procter and Gamble's, where it typically would be like, ooh, these are the assets or stocks which are moving in a bear market, because you need your Walmart, you need your household goods by P&G. But that sector is actually not up. So this is a good indicator, an indicator that I like. Just to get a couple more pieces of news together from the roundup. We had a bit of a better day for the Bitcoin spot ETFs, but it's not an inflow day. We still did see 140 million outflows yesterday, but it is significantly less than the 566, which we saw the day before. And then the other thing that I wanted to touch on, which is also interesting before I'm going to get into the dollar index, into the Dixie, is the when will the government shutdown end poly market with 8 million in volume? Because yesterday it did look like the odds that it's going to last longer than November 16th dropped significantly from 53 to 30%. So it looked like we might see the shutdown ending a bit earlier than expected, but they did bounce back again today, and they're back at 47%. So that also might add some interesting volatility to the market, and I do bet that this is a market that a lot of people are watching, and we'll keep reporting on that as well. Then, last but not least, we covered it in the show yesterday a bit that the Dixie, the dollar index, which measures the dollar's strength against a basket of different currencies, is up significantly over the month, is up almost 2%, which once more is a super strong move for the Dixie. Yes, it's down almost 8% on the year. And yes, yesterday it also did give back some of these gains. It did give back 25 bips, so 1/4%, which again is a fair amount of volatility, which we're seeing for the Dixie even on a daily basis. So what is the takeaway from all of this? A lot of uncertainty, I would say, in the market, a lot of volatility. There is no uniform direction happening. You can't even make a generalized statement like, oh, tech stocks are doing good, because some of them are like correcting a bit. It's a market where I am a bit careful and not willing to enter new massive bets at the moment.
Interesting. Super helpful roundup across the board. One question that I'm going to pose to you, Legendary, I'm going to put you on the spot for an answer here. But I actually think you'll be able to get some interesting poly market data. So I'm going to pose the question to you. Hopefully you can bring up the poly market because I think this is going to be a way to use poly market or any prediction market in an interesting way. I liked the bet that Mando and KPM had on the other day, where I think Bitcoin was around 110 or something like that. I can't remember. And Mando thought it was going to go to 120, and KPM thought it was going to go to 100. And so, you know, you're bang in the middle. Someone thinks it's going to go 10K higher. Someone's going to go 10K lower. Rather than placing that bet in spot, right, where you buy some and you win a 10% move, why not go on to Polymarket and or one of these sites and say, I believe it will hit 120 before it will hit 100. And in that case, it's a binary bet, is one of two. And if you think you've got a better read on the market, you can potentially, I'm not saying, you know, I don't know how, if you're literally sitting in between, then, you know, 10% move either way is what would determine it. It's kind of a 50-50 coin flip, but then you double your money. So question to you here is, with Bitcoin at around 100K, I know it's not exactly 100K now, it's pushed to around 103, 104. Do you think we see 90K before we see 110K? And also, just, is there a way we can see what the market thinks of that on Polymarket?
I love these questions. No, I do not. I would say we see 110 before we see 90, but it's also
Yes,
not
good. I think the opposite.
yeah. It's let's do a side. Okay, let's do a side bet on that. You willing to do a poly market style side bet on that?
Maybe.
Shall we do one for what's the time frame? Let's pick a time frame. Until the end of year, and otherwise it's a void bet.
Let's yeah, maybe.
Now I'm putting you on the spot here.
It's good. We're too close to 110. We're 104. Make
Yeah.
it we need to adjust the thing to make it in the middle. But whatever it is in the middle, as in like a 10% rise for you and a 10% decline for me.
Okay. Yeah, let's do a side bet on that. So it's going to be like 114, 15-ish, and then the downside
versus 90 something. Yeah.
I'd still pick the upside.
Okay.
Looking on Polymarket, what is Polymarket saying? A 35% think, this is for November specifically, we're going to see 115K. 41% think we're going to see 95K. So
pretty even.
Pretty even. But it's a bit in your favor. It's not a bet, and I see English requesting in the space. I'm going to bring him up on stage as well. I saw him setting thumbs down when we started talking about that. It's not a bet that I would entertain because I don't like the binary outcome in this case, where I just don't have a strong feeling, right? I'd rather buy 5 BTC, and if I'm right and it's up 10%, I made 50K, and if I'm down, I still have 450 rather than doing a 100K bet and either double up or lose that.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Like the gold price, I love those myriad bets to do that.
Why? Why is it different for you?
Because when gold was at like 4K and was going to 4.1K and everyone was like talking about gold and buying gold, I had a way stronger sense that we are going to go higher until we'll see the crazy news of people lining up for hours.
Got it.
I don't have this confidence for BTC right now. Also, I think we go higher first.
Okay, well, let's bring on resident Bitcoin expert, English. Welcome to the stage, my man. It's been a while. You felt compelled to get in on this bet. Maybe you want a little bit of this side action yourself. What's your perspective on?
All right. Well, hopefully I don't get out of area too much. I'm going on a walk here. And but yeah, no, I did want to get. I thought you were gonna say resident bear, not resident Bitcoin expert. And I was gonna feel proud about that title, but I'll I'll take the Bitcoin as well. No, I just have some areas of interest in Bitcoin that I think make sense for your bet. So like that 103 is the 50-week moving average. So you probably want to be there. We're right around there. I think we maybe a little bit higher, lower, whatever. But 103, you have about 112 is another area of interest because that was the previous all-time high from the first run-up. And then around 92, 93, there's another area of interest. There was a CME gap, a couple of other things there. I can't remember indicators. But that gives you like the rough kind of thing. So if you want to like go off of when it goes 102 to 112 to 92 or something like that, that probably makes a lot of sense. I'm generally downward long over time, but I kind of will go with maybe legendary that we go up a little bit first. I don't know. I just nothing's in a downward movement, and I think we can probably break that 107. There's like this like 107, 110, 112 kind of stuff, and I think we could probably get a little bit like happy after we maybe tap 107 a couple of times. But I think over time, in that next 3 to 6 month window that we like to look at things here at the modern market, probably hit 92, 93 eventually would be my guess.
Interesting. So yeah, we do like that 3 to 6 month window. Feel like that's the right pocket for us to make more concrete reads on the market. But that's the danger of this type of a bet, right? Where you're saying which one goes first. You can be right in the short, well, so you could be right in even that medium term, which is like the 3 to 6 month pocket that we like. But we've seen how volatile the market's been recently. You could just lose out on a swing. So that is the specific risk. Appreciate your thoughts there, English, as the resident bear who somehow went bullish against me in that bet, but that's okay.
No, just short term.
I get it.
I'm holding my bear. Just one more quick thing. I know you got to move things along. Just a quick thought on the poly market. Sure, you could 2x as opposed to just get capture the whatever percentage on the upside, downside, 3, 5%, whatever it may be. But I think it's actually likens more to like leverage trading, because if you are wrong all the way, you get liquidated, right? Like, so that's
correct.
There. So like you want to have a certain amount of certainty. And if you have that much certainty, you can just 10x or 20x leverage or whatever. So I think it's probably more closer to like a leverage bet without, and then you just get liquidated at those specific levels.
True. I think that's a smart way to think it through. Right. Good thoughts there, English. Appreciate you for jumping up there. Ledge, anything else you want to say on the general market stuff before we keep it moving?
Not really. I did see when, well, English was speaking, Funky, our resident bull, then sending thumbs down emotes. So I assume that Funky is more bullish on the market, but nothing specific to add from my side.
Okay, that's fine. So I like exploring those things, and in fact, I know we always talk about like the 3 to 6 month window being a nice pocket of time to think things through. But I also think this question, which we asked ourselves, is a helpful question for you to maybe trade or think through on a shorter time frame. Doesn't I don't think it even necessarily means that you have to make a decision on it and act on it all the time, but to ask yourself that question, like, do I feel Bitcoin moving to 112 before it goes to 93 at the moment? And then just like as a way to structure your brain and just to get a sense on what you're feeling. Sometimes you can at least build some conviction in whatever direction you're going. So I find it a helpful question. Just wanted to share that. So let's get into the second headline though, which is a bit more on the institutional side, actually. This is the news that fintech Ripple gets $40 billion valuation after $500 million in funding. The digital asset and infrastructure company Ripple said on Wednesday it has raised $500 million in funding, lifting its valuation to $40 billion. The fundraise comes after a slew of acquisitions that we've been reporting on as the company expands its product base beyond just payments. A lot of crypto and digital asset companies are trying to take advantage of what is seen by the industry as a more favorable environment in the US after Trump's election. So that's why I think so many people are going on this acquisition spree. And Ripple said that its funding round was led by funds managed by affiliates of Fortress Investment Group, Citadel Securities, Pantera, Galaxy, Brevin Howard, and Marshall Wace. So they said the decision to accept $500 million in new common equity reflects the strategic value of deepening relationships and financial partners whose expertise complements Ripple's expanding global suite of products. Ledge, I have no kind of specific read on this necessarily. I do just note that it's definitely big enough to be a headline itself, and just noting the increasingly corporate nature of the news that we report on now, and maybe how sentiment on crypto Twitter and maybe broader market, maybe more corporate crypto, is kind of the gap between those two things are getting wider and wider. It looks like corporate crypto is coming along nicely. People are willing to make acquisitions, go public and stuff, whereas crypto Twitter sentiment is in the gutter. So any thoughts on the acquisition, the raise itself, XRP, Ripple, or anything else?
Interesting news. As I said, it's relevant enough. Also interesting as a part of that, that they're saying that they're not focused on an IPO right now. They have the balance sheet, the liquidity to be growing and making moves on M&A and other big strategic partnerships, but they continue to remain private. Basically, not following the Circle model, but following what Tether is doing instead. That I found interesting from a strategic perspective. But I do remember that at the start of the show, you said as part of the market thoughts, you would have a question if we need to buy something. Was that directed towards Ripple, or was that something else which you had in mind?
That was actually something else, which we moved on from, but I think we should actually answer the question now because we've got time today. We are going to do the Beezie giveaway. Don't forget, we'll do that. We've got one more headline to go. But I did want to just touch on briefly Zcash being up past $500 now. Like past $500. I think it went as high as 500. I think you're going to bring up the chart here, and if we can get that up on the screen as well, please. Up to $534 now. Up 17% on the day. If we just look at the 1 month chart on this, Ledge, this is
up 270%.
Up 270%, up in a certainly not a straight line. I mean, I'm sure if you look at this in some ways, it's kind of a straight line because it just kept going up. There's been humongous dips on that road. If you look at the 1 year chart, that is certainly a sight to see. What we're looking at there with gosh, that is an insane chart if you were gonna buy it. So now we're at an $11.2 billion FDV. And do you know what I was wondering, Ledge? I was wondering when I first got into crypto, which is not very long ago, it's 2021. I came in that cycle, And I guess, relatively speaking, I came in quite late. ETH was, I think ETH was already something like 1,500. But the thing is, ETH at that time had gone up from like triple digits. And then obviously that ETH at that time was the hottest thing because of smart contracts, because it was needed for NFTs. NFTs were going to change the world. In some ways, they really, okay, we won't get into NFTs now, but the point is ETH went from triple digits and then it went to like around 1,500 and then just completely continued to explode. I don't know much of the price action before that because I wasn't in the space, but I'm getting the vibe here. And in no way does this comparison make any like technical sense. So don't think that it's a technical comparison. The comparison is purely on the sentiment and the excitement and the energy. Like that's what I'm comparing to ETH back in 2021. And look, maybe there was other times when ETH exploded as well, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the part that I know. Is this a do you see the comparison I'm making, Ledge? Like the energy, the sentiment, the excitement, and therefore, okay, fine, it might have exploded up and be triple digits. And to be clear, one of the dangerous things with Zcash is that when Zcash pumps, historically, that's towards the end of the cycle and towards the end of the market. So you've got to factor that in, but you've got to decide, is this one of those pumps or is this Zcash being ETH from the last cycle and people just deciding like, wow, we absolutely love this thing, so much energy, excitement, and desire to own this thing right here, right now. Therefore, it can reprice significantly higher still. What do you think of what I'm saying here?
Yeah, no, I get the point that you're trying to make. I don't feel that there is a ton of euphoria around the Zcash, but I don't feel that it matches the energy of the ETH run. But with that being said, the energy of the ETH run, whether you look at both, like the run from $10 to $1,000 in 2018, which I remember quite well as then the 2021-2022 run that was against the backdrop of the overall market running, which is not something that we're seeing at the moment. So I would say that the Zcash run now, despite the more negative crypto-specific sentiment, is even more impressive. It's something that I am, and I'm also curious to then hear from English, who had his hand up. It's something that I find a bit annoying from my personal portfolio. And what do I mean by that? Easy Eats Bodega, he had the post out saying, I don't mind that I missed the Zcash trade. There's many opportunities to make money. And typically I am of that belief. But in this case, I feel very frustrated that I ignored Zcash for so long, which tells me that I just didn't understand why it was running. And Funky was making the point that's more meme-like in the way that it moved. Because my initial gripe was with that I do like the privacy stuff quite a lot, but I don't think that it has been running on that fundamental. And that is something that I found interesting, specifically with CT, specifically with, look at the MegaETH sale. I'm going to connect that with privacy in a second. After the deposits, I think it was Confusion who built a dashboard where you could see everyone who had a wallet that was linked to an X account via on-chain analytics, whether it was Arkham or whatever data source was used for that, you could see the deposits. And basically so many prominent names were on there who had deposited from a public wallet, who didn't go, that sidestep to fund a fresh wallet via centralized exchange, especially if you're going to deposit 186K. That I did do that. But many did not do that. And it did show me, just rationally thinking, that people do not really care about the privacy or about the wallet privacy too much. Maybe because it's too complicated right now to stay private if you navigating EVM. It's not complicated. It's tedious is maybe the right word for that. So this is when I was trying to analyze the privacy run from a maybe too analytical perspective. And I was absolutely wrong about that. And this is why I found it so frustrating for my personal portfolio that I did miss this trade.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think for me, the reason of missing it is historically, it's just always not worked out. You try, it pumps, it then crashes, it pumps and then crashes. it pumps and crashes, and it's always at the end. And after a cycle where, or at least through a cycle where there's been so many gains to be had, definitely didn't want to chase something that has historically been like that. Now, I'm very open to the idea that this time is actually different, for the reason that I just described before, like the energy being slightly different around it. Still super cautious. I'm not going to throw my whole port and lose everything that I made the cycle at it, but I'm certainly open to it now. English, want to bring you in on this for a take before we hit the final headline and the Beezie giveaway today. So, what's your thoughts on Zcash, my man? English, I cannot hear you. I don't know if you can hear him, Ledge.
No, neither can I.
All right, we have lost you, man. So I don't know.
Oh, I think.
No, he's not on mute from what I could tell. I think he's trying. Don't worry, man. We'll try to get you back up another time. We'll be talking Zcash again, I'm sure, if it continues this run, especially. So I'd love to hear from you again another time. Right, final headline for the day, Ledge, before we get to the Beezie giveaway. Let's do it. We've got what have we got for the final one? We've got Wintermute report that the money has stopped flowing in. So this has been one of the things I've been super concerned about over and over again. And this was articulated by Wintermute in the last 24 hours. They published this short report where they said liquidity drives crypto cycles, and now the money has stopped flowing in. Said stablecoins, ETFs, and DATs have grown from 180 billion to 560 billion since early 2024, but momentum has slowed. Capital is rotating internally, not entering fresh rally, which means that rallies are dying fast and the breadth keeps narrowing. They do say, to offer some hope, when any of these three channels re-accelerate, liquidity will flow back into digital assets. Until then, crypto remains in a self-funded phase. So they do share this chart, which I think you need to read in more detail, to be honest, rather than going through it now in great detail. But I think the point is the same reservation that I think I've been sharing for a long time here, which is the DATs are exhausted. That's basically been my phrase for a reasonable period of time. The DATs are exhausted. They're trading below MNAV and they can't raise more money. So who is going to be the next buyer? That is the core question that you have to ask yourself over and over and over again to determine whether there will be more people to buy the stuff that you want them to buy in order for the price to go higher. There has to be more buyers, and DATs were humongous buyers, and they pushed the prices really, really high. And they were often telegraphed, and they would tell you we're about to buy, and so the price is going to go much higher. And then the question is, who wants to buy after the DATs? And I guess the expectation or hope has been, well, maybe DATs will just keep buying. And it looks like they're not able to do that because they can't raise anymore because they're trading underneath the MNAV. So this has been a technical thing because of the design of the DATs that we've been talking about for a long time. It's a real issue. And so we need to find a price at which other people, or maybe DATs again, in some way can raise to buy again, or the other people are going to step in and say, no, this is actually a really great value point for Bitcoin or ETH or whatever. And it's not going to be the price, I don't think, that Tom Lee was full sending and buying, because people are not going to want to pay that price. It was only Tom Lee who had the luxury of full sending God knows how much money into ETH. But you know, when other people are looking for value, they don't want to pay that price. And so I don't think the market is going to continue at a price where DATs were in a mania. We're going to have to find a price lower than that. So that's my thought on that, Ledge. Be curious for your thoughts before we get to our giveaway today.
Yeah, a short summary of that is, which we've been saying on the show, it's a rotator's market. It's not worth believing in something. It's worth rotating capital around. Someone in the comments was also making an interesting point, linking that to the government shutdown, saying, well, government shutdown is not allowing access to almost $1 trillion in the TGA, the Treasury General account, of which the expectation would be to see some of that flowing into financial markets. But all of that, as I said, doesn't matter from the point of the status quo, because this is not happening. The government is shut down. There is no fresh money flowing in. So I do think that it is especially important to keep that in mind. If in this market you choose to believe in something, you better have a damn strong thesis that you want to believe in that asset.
Okay. Look, and by the way, I've said this on the show a couple of times, and Funky detailed it for us in great detail. I'm very persuaded by the idea that the government shutdown is having a significant, like, chilling, cooling effect on the market at the moment. The longer it goes on, the more uncertainty there is, the more people get scared. What if they never open? I mean, obviously they're going to open again, but what if this continues to be like a protracted, difficult environment where, both sides are being really difficult and not facilitating that funding getting moving again. So I do think that is a meaningful factor. And I do think whenever that does close, things will get better. I don't think, obviously there is a poly market on this, but I don't think people are betting on it resolving tomorrow. So I think November could be a difficult month. And to be honest, I don't know where we go after that. My instinct is lower still. Maybe we bounce a little bit higher from here. I don't know 100%, but my instinct is generally lower at the moment. And then we take it from there. So that's the thought there. Still very persuaded by the government shutdown argument, but that's more or less our show for the day. Excellent discussions as usual. Good input from English. I like that part as well. But today we are, of course, sponsored by Beezie. Legendary, we're going to pass over to you here to let people know about Beezie, what they need to know. And we're doing our first slightly more significant giveaway. This one's an exciting one, a special Pikachu card. What do we need to know? How can people participate moving forward? Let us know all the details, please.
Yes, absolutely. Let's head over to bc.io. Quick recap. We currently have 4 claws live. You pick a claw of your choice. You open to instantly reveal your collectible and can decide whether you want to hold or swap that. Have a 15-minute window to decide that if you want to sell back for up to 90% of the market value. And each pool trade or swap that you do helps you to climb the leaderboard and farm points for an airdrop. And as you said, we are giving away what I think is a pretty cool promo card today. This is 2023 Japanese Detective Pikachu returns from the pre-order promo graded in CGC 10, worth around $350. And we give it away to someone who has signed up under our affiliate link. We'll post the link in the comments again. We did weigh a bit higher for people who actually have ripped some packs and did some volume on Beezie, but everyone who did sign up to now with the affiliate link, which we had shared in the past as well, is in this wheel of names, which I am sharing on screen now. And
So who have we got weighted the most here, Legendary?
Noble, Meg, and Holo Hoarder 486758, who did some volume using Beezie out of everyone who has been entered.
There we go. You can see their names slightly bigger, got a few more sections than other people. So crucially, as you said, you are going to have to rip some packs, be participating in order to be on this board. I believe in order to be moving this forward, Legendary, we're going to be giving a card away per week of similar value. Is that right?
From next week on, we're going to do, this is what we're going to do from next week on. We're going to give away claw pools for this $250 Pokemon Gold Claw. And we will focus on people who are actually using Beezie, who are actually doing volume. And we're going to give away $500 worth of pools for this claw each and every week from now on.
That is good. That's exciting. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing from next week. Remember, you do have to have signed up via our affiliate link, which Legendary is going to drop in the comments if he hasn't done already. Just confirm that is done, and then we are going to get to today's giveaway. Lech, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get back to the wheel. I'm sharing that on screen. And let's spin it and see who is winning this promo Pikachu today. Alrighty. The wheel is spinning. And it's not moving over to Noble. It is staying with Boxbreaker 251523. We will send the card This is the card once more. $343 from price charting. It's its current worth. We're going to send that over to your account after the show.
Congratulations, Box Breaker. One stipulation is that you do not sell this back to Legendary at the market value. He is yearning for this card, but that is against the modern market terms and conditions. Is that fair, Legendary?
I don't think this is fair, but I definitely will get my hand on this card specifically.
You will not stop Legendary either way. So congratulations, Box Breaker. Well done. We'll be sending that over to you a little bit later today. Congrats. And as you say, we'll be doing giving away a couple of gold claw pulls each week now on a Thursday. So that's the plan for the next few weeks. If you want to participate, sign up via our affiliate link, which Legendary has dropped in the comments, and it will be on the YouTube and the Spotify and the Apple podcast as well, if that's where you consume our content. But guys, that's our show for today. Shout out to Beezie for partnering with us as always. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow, live on X video, YouTube, and you can catch us on Apple and Spotify podcasts. Thank you so much for being with us. Have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.